You were taught to fear money, not directly, but quietly, subtly, through the stories, the looks, the warnings. Maybe it was when your father cursed the rich man on TV. Maybe it was when your mother said, "We're not like them," with shame in her voice. Maybe it was when someone told you that people with money always lose their soul, and you believed it. Because it came from the people you trusted, the people who raised you to survive, not to thrive. They didn't know better. They were repeating their own fears, their own wounds, their own losses. And now, without realizing it, you carry the same disease, a deep, invisible guilt, every time you think about wanting more. You say you want success, you say you want wealth, but deep down, you associate money with betrayal, with greed, with becoming someone you hate. That's why every time you get close to growth, you sabotage it. Every time you earn more, you spend more. Every time you win, you shrink. Because your mind doesn't see money as freedom, it sees it as corruption. And until you rewire that, no strategy will work. You can read the books, watch the videos, hustle every day. But if your core belief is that money makes you a bad man, your subconscious will make sure you stay broke, just to feel morally safe. This is not about money. It's about mental infection. You were never born hating wealth. You were trained to. And it's time to break that training. Because money isn't evil. Money is power. Power to choose. Power to move. Power to protect. To build. To lead. But only if your mind is clean enough to hold it. Keep watching. This is where we kill the guilt. And if you're ready to reprogram your mind to attract wealth without fear, subscribe now and turn on the notifications. The war against shame begins now. They didn't need to scream it. They whispered it. In the way they tensed up when bills arrived. In the way they judged people who had more. In the way they equated struggle with dignity and wealth with betrayal. You grew up in a house where money was either scarce, cursed, or both. So your brain made a decision to protect you. If money causes pain, then don't get close to it. Don't ask for more. Don't dream too big. Be a good boy. Stay small. Stay safe. But that safety was just fear wearing a mask. They told you rich people don't care, that wealth changes people, that success makes you cold, and they were wrong. It doesn't change you. It reveals you. If you were empty, money makes the emptiness louder. But if you're powerful, disciplined, strategic, then money becomes a weapon in your hands. And right now, your hands are trembling. Not because you lack ambition, but because your mind still sees money as the enemy. It sees abundance as danger. It sees desire as betrayal. And that's why you stay stuck, not by force, but by programming. You can't outperform your beliefs. You can work 10 jobs. You can hustle day and night. But if your mind believes that money will turn you into someone your family would hate, your mind will always choose loyalty over legacy. That's the tragedy. Men stay broke to stay accepted. They bury their ambition to remain lovable, and they call it humility. But it's not humility, it's fear. And it's killing everything you were born to become. You want wealth? Then first you have to kill the old story. The one where money ruined your uncle. The one where the boss was a monster. The one where success equals loneliness. None of that is truth. It's trauma. And your trauma is not your identity. You think you're stuck because of circumstances, lack of opportunity, a broken system. But the real prison is internal. It's guilt. Deep, inherited, unspoken guilt about becoming more than those who raised you. You were taught to admire survival, to praise the struggle, to feel noble in lack. So now, even when you start to rise, your mind pulls the emergency brake. Because somewhere in your subconscious, you believe that having more makes you less of a man, less loyal, less real, less human, and that lie is robbing you. Guilt is a weapon used by weak minds to keep strong men from rising. They'll say, "Don't forget where you came from," as if growth is betrayal, as if building wealth means abandoning your roots. But the truth is, staying broke out of loyalty doesn't honor your past. It repeats its mistakes. You don't uplift your people by lowering yourself. You rise so you can lift them too, but you can't do that if your mind equates success with sin. You say you want freedom, but your beliefs are chained to shame. You say you want to lead, but you still feel dirty when you think about money. You were conditioned to feel virtuous in poverty, but there's no virtue in struggle if it's chosen out of fear. Real virtue is power under control, wealth with integrity, abundance with purpose, and that only comes when you kill the guilt and give yourself permission to rise without apology. You are not your father's fear. You are not your mother's pain. You are not your cousin's resentment or your neighbor's judgment. You are a man building a new code. And that code starts with this: money is not evil. Your guilt is. And it ends today. The universe doesn't reward confusion. It rewards clarity. And most men stay broke because they send mixed signals. They want money, but they hate rich people. They desire abundance, but they feel shame when they get paid. They dream big, but speak small. They work hard, but sabotage every step. Why? Because they've never cleaned the mental lens through which they view wealth. They still see it as dirty, as dangerous, as something that changes you. But here's the truth. Money doesn't change you. It exposes whether you were honest about your values or just surviving on limitations. When you're clear about your relationship with money, when you see it as a tool, not a threat, it flows faster. Because now you're not resisting it with guilt or chasing it with fear. You're attracting it with strategy, with intention, with clean power. A man with a rich mindset knows that money is neutral. It amplifies who you are. If you're disciplined, it magnifies discipline. If you're generous, it multiplies impact. But if you're emotionally weak, it just gives your weaknesses a louder platform. That's why cleaning your mindset is more important than chasing cash. Because if your mind isn't ready for wealth, it'll reject it the second it arrives. Most people want more income without more insight. They want growth without identity work. But the real millionaire isn't made in the market. He's made in the mind. The man who sees money clearly, who holds it with stability and purpose, who's not afraid to rise and not ashamed to win, that man is unstoppable. That man doesn't shrink to fit in. He expands to lead. And you won't get there by earning more. You'll get there by thinking different, by deleting the virus they installed and rewriting your mind for clarity, direction, and power. Money obeys strength. It flows to structure, to discipline, to leadership. And if your internal response to wealth is fear, then you'll never command it. You'll repel it. That's the ugly truth no one wants to admit. You can fake confidence all day, but if you still feel unworthy of success, the money will feel it, and it will leave. Money doesn't respect desperation. It doesn't serve confusion. It follows the man who has done the internal work, the man who no longer sees it as evil, but as a weapon, a tool, a servant, never a master. If you think money changes people, it's because you've only seen it in the hands of weak minds. If you think wealth corrupts, it's because you were raised on stories written by the broke and bitter. But what you haven't seen, what they never showed you, is what happens when money lands in the hands of a man with discipline, honor, and vision. That man builds nations. That man feeds communities. That man changes bloodlines. Not because money made him powerful, but because he made himself powerful before the money came. You were taught to survive. I'm telling you to lead. You were taught to obey. I'm telling you to create. You were taught to be quiet and humble and invisible. I'm telling you to rise, speak, and become undeniable. But you can't do any of that while fearing the very thing you claim to want. You can't hold power if your hands are shaking with guilt, You can't attract wealth while secretly believing it will ruin you. So it's time to rewire that belief, to cut it at the root. Because the man who fears money lives a life of limitation. But the man who masters it, he owns his destiny. You were born to build, to lead, to create. But they handed you shame instead of vision, guilt instead of strategy, fear instead of power. And now you stand at the edge of your potential, still doubting whether you're allowed to cross. Still wondering if success will make you selfish, still terrified of becoming the man they warned you about. But here's the truth. The only evil in money is the belief that you don't deserve it. You've carried enough false guilt. You've played small long enough. You've stayed broke to make others comfortable. But poverty by choice is not noble. It's betrayal. Betrayal of your gifts, your future, your bloodline. There is no virtue in refusing to rise. There is no honor in staying less than you are. You don't help your family by mimicking their limits. You help them by breaking them. You help them by becoming the first. The example. The fire that burns a new path. So from this moment forward, you no longer apologize for wanting more. You no longer shrink for their approval. You no longer carry shame that doesn't belong to you. Money is not evil. Your purpose is not optional, and your rise will not be delayed another day. This is your new code. Think with clarity, act with discipline, earn with honor, and lead with power. Because the war is no longer outside. The war was always within, and you just won it. If this message hit you deep, subscribe now. Drop a comment and tell the world, I'm done fearing money. I'm ready to own it. This time, for real.